to address the nomination of Judge Neil Gorsuch to serve on the Supreme Court of the United States. I will address Mr. Gorsuch's qualifications and his extensive legal experience in a moment. But first, I would invite my Senate colleagues to consider, what do we seek in a nominee to our nation's highest court? Maybe it's easier to say what we don't want. We do not want a lawmaker. Washington has plenty of those. Over 100 senators, 435 members of Congress. We do not want a crusader for a cause. Most of all, we do not want a trailblazer. What we want is a follower of the Constitution. We want a Supreme Court justice who will follow the laws as written and uphold the rule of law. This demands discipline. It requires the rarest of virtues, humility. There is no room for hubris on the Supreme Court. We do not want a justice who believes he knows better than our founders. That's not his job. A Supreme Court justice should neutrally apply the laws as written by Congress and as understood by the framers of our Constitution. They must not impose their personal preference upon the law or upon the American people. I want to say again, Mr. President, we want someone who will follow the law and uphold the rule of law. We also seek a keen legal mind. A nominee must possess the sharpest intellect and only the most rigorous academic qualifications. This person may be one of 9 human beings who will resolve questions affecting the freedoms and the rights of millions. Therefore, in addition to ironclad commitment to the rule of law and brilliant intellect, this person must be a known quantity. There must be a reliable record for us to carefully assess. In exercising our constitutional power of advice and consent, we don't make guesses here in the United States Senate. We hold hearings. We ask probing questions. This is how we will determine if Mr. Gorsuch is the legal disciple, brilliant mind, and known quantity that the American people need and the person that the American people deserve. The evidence so far suggests that he is. As a judge on the U.S. Court of Appeals for the 10th Circuit, Mr. Gorsuch has served 10 years in an extraordinary fashion. He was confirmed by a voice vote here in the United States Senate. His opinions reflect a history of upholding the rule of law. His conduct on the bench demonstrates an exemplary judicial temperament, and he is enormously well qualified. His educational background is impressive. An undergraduate degree from Columbia, a law degree from Harvard, and a PhD from Oxford University. Judge Gorsuch clerked for the Supreme Court. Further, he is well within the mainstream. Among his many impressive academic distinctions, he is a Truman Scholar. This sizable financial award is given by the Harry S. Truman Scholarship Foundation to young people pursuing a career in public service. And I note that my colleague from Delaware, Senator Coons, is a Truman Scholar. Former Secretary of State Madeleine Albright serves as president of the Truman Foundation. Senator McCaskill of Missouri is a board member. And all are highly respected Democrats. It should be telling that the organization now headed by Secretary Albright and Senator McCaskill helped Mr. Gorsuch fund his graduate studies. Jeffrey Rosen of the nonpartisan National Constitution Center had this to say about the judge. He sometimes reaches results that favor liberals when he thinks the history or the text of the Constitution or the law require it, especially in areas like criminal law or the rights of religious minorities. Norm Eisen, Special Counsel for Ethics and Government Reform in the White House for President Barack Obama, attended law school with Mr. Gorsuch. He called him simply a great guy. There is much more that can and will be said about the nominee in the days to come. Much of it will contribute to a vigorous confirmation process. Sadly, I suspect that much of it will not. Many, including some in this chamber, have said, well, they've said that they're going to oppose any nominee, no matter how qualified. Americans deserve better. They deserve better than this bitter feud here in the United States Senate. The presidential campaign is over. As the Washington Post recently editorialized, a Supreme Court nomination is not a forum to refight a presidential election. The newspaper's editors urged against a scorched earth response. Senate Republicans gave President Bill Clinton an up or down vote on his first two Supreme Court nominees. Senate Republicans gave President Obama an up or down vote on his two first Supreme Court nominees. This is a chance for my colleagues in the United States Senate to show how high-minded they can be. They can permit a similar up or down vote on this president's first Supreme Court nominee. I invite them to engage with me in a respectful, civil dialogue as we carry out our duty of advice and consent. We need a vigorous confirmation process, and I will work for that vigorous, open, respectful, and transparent process. I hope all of my colleagues on both sides of the aisle will join me in that. Thank you, Mr.